I don't know where we're going to go today, but I'm pretty confident we'll go somewhere and come back. We always do when I'm talking to my friend. What else are you? Friend. I think you're a catalyst. I think you are an artist for sure.
Your officiant, your your guidance counselor, your
You would make an amazing guidance counselor. No, seriously, you would straight up. You would be in high school. Oh my God.
that'd be fun.
You would just play Connect Four all day with the kids that come in. You
Absolutely.
would be real.
Yeah.
You no false moments with Mr. Buddy Wakefield, who is on my show today. So, Buddy just turned 50.
Yeah.
Uh, world. I was gonna say world famous Buddy Wakefield, but world champion Buddy Wakefield.
Not so much world famous. well, well, I'll take world champion.
Yes.
Not so much world famous. And the world champion thing happened 20 years ago. Well, 19. And I heard a saying recently, you can't live on yesterday's glories. So I think as of right now, I'm just kind of like a Porto, Portugal resident
Should I retire? Should we
refinding.
retire? I mean, I'm proud of you, man. So the world champion, I think, is definitely a notch in your belt
Mm.
if you decide to wear one, and your TED Talk, which I love. I always make fun of your TED Talk because it's about air, um, but I loved it. I loved it.
You've mentioned that more than once, and I've learned to say thank you and not say how mortified I was about that talk.
Did you not like it?
Well, I mean, I'm representing meditation, and I was going through a breakup, and
Yeah.
I was miserable talking about the basically the surefire path to balance and sustainable joy, and I was unfocused. I wasn't breathing, and I was talking about breath.
Mm,
It was a disaster inside my body while I was doing it. But it turns out people ended up going to Vipassana
yeah.
courses
Yeah.
for it because of it. And if that's the case, mission accomplished. Like if somebody did find um, equanimity because of that talk, then mission accomplished.
For anyone who didn't see Buddy Wakefield's TED Talk, which you can find on YouTube, what was the message? What was the catalyst for the talk, and what was actually the message?
Well, the catalyst was just after a lifetime of seeking um, spiritually. Vipassana meditation was the only thing that ever worked to eradicate suffering at the root level for me and bring me out of habit patterns and blind reactions. And it was something, when I find out good information, I just want people to know it.
Yeah,
I want to get it out there. I think you're the same way.
and
You get
well,
excited about learning.
yeah, absolutely. And Vipassana for you is it's not like a 10-minute meditation. I mean, you go for like a weekend,
It's
or it's
it's
hardcore.
it's the boot
Yeah,
camp of meditation.
yeah. It's like 12 hours,
Well,
right?
it's 10 days, about 11 hours a day. There's breaks and there's a discourse at the end of the night, and um, it's broken up nicely. But it is it's full on, full blown meditation. No talking, no also no idol worship, no bullshit. It's just the
Yeah.
science of breath. There's no rites or rituals. It's universal. Every religion is welcome. I mean, the only way you're not going to be into it is if you don't like air, and that's sort of what the talk was.
Well, what's the tipping point? I've never done obviously a 12-hour meditation. I've done, maybe half an hour tops. What's the tipping point? Because I'm assuming it gets very uncomfortable until it tips, and suddenly you're hitting kind of spiritual notes. You're in a different, almost dimension body.
That's such an interesting question because each course, the first one I went to, I think the tipping point for me was calm. I was quitting smoking after 19 years. I was
Hmm.
So the tipping point was just feeling good for a minute in my body, frankly.
Mm,
Um, but also I've been doing this since 2005, and I would say I think it was in 2018. I just remember thinking, yeah, it was 2018 because I remember thinking I hit a certain point. I guess in terms of tipping point, I hit a certain place in my meditation that I don't want to talk about too much because it'll set up an expectation for other people.
right.
But there was a clearing, and I
Mm,
was and my capacity to hold good energy was expansive, and it was doing that for about 4 hours. And I remember one of the first thoughts I had was, that's so easy. That took 13 years.
mm,
Because now,
yeah.
once the path is beaten and and you know it, it's so quick to access it. So it's so much easier to access that capacity for good energy. And it's also a choice, like accessing the gym. So if I don't go, I don't get it.
Do you meditate daily now, or do you just
No,
when you just do the intense the week, and then you're good for what, like a year, and then you
no.
no
I mean, when you stop, it's just it is the mental version of working out. So if you
right
stop, it's as quickly as you're going to lose muscles, as quickly as you'll lose what you
okay
gain there.
right
I just haven't, since the last time, I haven't kept the practice. Really, I mean, plenty of excuses, but no excuses.
yeah yeah
I just I find this is a cool thing to talk about that I just was speaking with a friend on the other day. Did you ever see the documentary AlphaGo?
no
So there's this game. It's like chess.
hmm
It's the most popular game in the world, evidently. But I guess like per capita, but it's in the Far East.
mm,
So it's not so well known in America, but it's like a different kind of chess altogether.
okay
And there's a world championship in it, and people and there's a documentary on it uh, on 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 the world champion of AlphaGo against AI.
mm,
And what they discovered, this was years ago now, but what they discovered was that, and I'll link this back to Vipassana in a second, and not keeping the practice, but um,
sometimes we throw boomerangs, they don't come back.
yeah,
They don't come
yeah,
back, they land
that's
in
a
other
that's a
people's yards.
ongoing thing with us. But uh, AI. So I think the guy won the first. It was the best out of five,
Right
and the guy beat the AI in the
right
first one.
right
AI won the rest of them.
wow
And what they saw that they were so impressed with was that the AI wasn't out to pulverize him, wasn't out to see to like whip his ass.
hmm
The AI consistently only did what it had to do to beat him.
just to
So
be like by 1 point kind of
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
yeah.
So it would,
Oh
it would consistently just beat him by a little when it could have torn him apart at certain
right
places.
right
But the AI only did what it had to do to beat them. And I think I've thought about this a lot in my own life, and how I show up in life, especially like I've been single for a while and I don't have a lot of responsibilities, and how I show up alone is I do find myself only doing what I need to get by. And I think
mm,
some people look down on that. Some people don't, are neutral about it, but I've been cool with it until I'm not, until I'm ready to
right
go gung ho again. But I have found that in these last couple of years, I've done just what I need to get by,
yeah. You're
and
like
and
the
focus on the
kind
rest of
AI,
it.
you're saying.
And so,
Yeah.
as far as meditating goes, I think I've took the speed of my life down a notch, and I haven't felt as compelled to sit down. But I know when things get out, when life gets too dense energetically, I go straight back into meditation when I have to.
One of the things I have in common with you, that I don't with a lot of my other friends, is you have entered the 50s club. I'm
Yeah,
51 and you are now 50, just as
I'm
of
fine.
like a couple months ago.
Yeah,
How's it feel? What
my
revelations?
23-year-old heart doesn't get it.
Well, we're both in the afternoon of our life.
Yeah.
And also, can I point out, we have very different lives, meaning you
Mm.
just said that you were single. I've got a 5-year-old. I the house, I'm taking my kid to school in the mornings.
I
You're in
watched all this
Portugal.
happen.
Yeah, you watch all this stuff. Now you're in Portugal. I'm in LA, and we live very different lives. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. What's it like turning 50?
Uh, I don't think humble people use the word humble, but I'll say it's humbling. I I my my 23-year-old heart hasn't grown accustomed to it yet. I still make jokes, and I'll have to catch myself like, wow, you could be considered a creepy old man now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I get that too.
I I feel like it's time to step it up, adulting a little bit,
Mm.
um, and
What
uh,
would that look like
and
for you?
also to go. I've been inspired to go all out on my health again,
Hmm.
while I've still got what I've got. Because in the 40s, secret shit starts to happen in your
Oh
body.
yeah,
The neck starts
yeah.
doing weird shit. The
Yes, everything
the
does weird
shapes
shit.
go different. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
So I'm inspired to give it one more good push, and walk into the next decade or two with with a great healthy start.
I wonder if with you, like your meditation, your fitness is bundled into one instead of spread out. You know what I'm saying? I feel like with you, so you go hard and you go
All or
extreme.
nothing.
Yeah, you're very all or nothing, which I can be like that too. And I also wonder if that is because of like an addictive gene, I think you're attracted to edges. I think you're extreme. So like even with the fitness stuff, when you go strict and you go hard, but then I don't think that's sustainable. I think it's better to kind of go less hard, but it's a permanent lifestyle, instead of like your meditation, you going a week or a weekend, 12 hours, like that's crazy, instead of just doing it daily for 30 minutes or 20 minutes,
I'm in total agreement. I think what happens is that I get, whether it's diet or meditation or
or
working
maybe
out
you're writing too.
and writing.
Yeah.
Well, you've called me out a couple of times on being a perfectionist, which I want to touch back on in a second. But as far as all or nothing, I do. But I think I go into that all with the intention of that I'm going to go all out. I'm going to get where I think I need to be, and then I'm going to balance it and pull back a little to what is sustainable. And I
Mm.
think what happens is that, I mean, it's 50 years of a bit of a holding pattern in that regard. I want, what I'm trying to say is I agree with you, and I think
Even with the celibacy
I think
thing,
there needs
didn't
to
you
be a
also, like, for was many
yeah,
months or a year?
seven and a half months was
Seven
the
and a half
last time.
months
Yeah,
Yeah, like that's extreme.
it's also the most joyful time of my life. People, I think people see that as torture or sex
Mm.
negative, but it was one of the most joyous times of my life. I wasn't distracted by anything. I was in love with everything,
Yeah,
and it wasn't that hard. I just didn't think about it. It was
it was
also
hard. It was very
it was a
hard.
it was a it was a real lesson in where the energy go, where the attention goes, the
Yeah,
energy flows.
sure.
Um,
Did you wake up and just set the intention? I'm not going to think about sex or pleasure or,
no, I don't
y-
think like that. I'm not gonna think about pleasure.
well, how did you with staying for 7 months,
Well, I started in
especially?
Vipassana. So when we go to Vipassana, we agree to 5 tenets, and it's no killing.
Yeah.
This is easy for me. No stealing,
Yeah,
no lying. When it's silent for 10 days, so you can't.
yeah.
No intoxicants, and no sexual misconduct. And all that they mean by sexual misconduct is just don't distract you or anybody else from the practice for this 10 days. Uh, just practice
Would masturbation be
morning and
sexual
night.
conduct?
Well, it's distracting from the practice because you're generating passion and you're generating heat,
Oh,
and you're just supposed to be observing
sure.
equanimously for 10 days. They just ask you to work for 10 days. They're not saying anything bad about sex. So when I got out, and this was in 2015, and when I got out, I wanted to keep it going as long as I could,
Right.
and I ended up keeping it going for 7.5 months.
So did you also not masturbate for 7 months?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, wow.
Well,
I
in the
mean,
middle of this, in the middle, so once this kind of presence happened, well, this is where our friendship got started when we started talking about serendipity.
mm,
Once that was the period when serendipity was pouring in,
interesting.
endless. I mean, daily. It was the joys from the serendipity on a daily basis eclipsed whatever it was I thought I desired in sex. It was
Okay, so let me ask you this: why do you think that happens? Is it because, and we're using sex as an example; it could be many things, but if you're thinking about chasing after, or distracted by sex or porn or anything in that category, or masturbation can also be compulsive. Then you don't have that radar. You're not able to see probably what you notice when you have more clarity. Like you're talking about serendipity. Serendipity can be very subtle. Most people don't notice.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what presence does for a person. Eckhart says it. Eckhart Tolle says it at the end of A New Earth. He sort of confirmed all of this experiential stuff that had been happening for me. Um, 8 months into it, I read him say basically, so when you become more established in presence, don't be surprised if the naturally occurring result is frequent, specific serendipity, kismet, coincidence,
Mm,
happenstance. He used all the words for it and just affirmed, oh wow, well that's what's happening for me. So then this is scientific. This is what happens for everybody. The more you get, the more present you get, the more serendipity is going to pour in, and you start to see the connection and everything a little bit better,
mm,
and a greater energy at work, which turns out to be a lighter energy, a more spacious energy, and inevitably something more joyful. And so I was happy to go in that direction because I had never run toward the light before.
yeah.
Eventually, it got I don't know how to say this with any sort of straight face, but I think it got a little. I was running to the light and it got a little too bright, or I was just I was I'm so
You needed
good.
some darkness, a
I'm
little
so,
hint of
well, I'm
darkness.
so good at navigating trauma and suffering that I think
Yeah.
I knocked myself back down so I could keep doing what I was good at for a
Mm,
minute because I was growing. My capacity for loving energy and good energy was had breached itself for a moment, or I got lazy.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: as an artist, as a writer, if you are getting too much light, if you are too happy, is it hard to create good
No,
work?
no, that was the best part about it was that
Oh,
I stopped. I wasn't being a tragedy addict, and so I was able to write with the edge that I love,
yeah,
but I was using the oh gosh, I hate saying positivity because it sounds like
because it's a bumper sticker. It's okay.
it is.
You can say, no, we can.
Well, and there's also someone I know who constantly says, "I'm so positive," and
Well, that's a
she's not.
false. That's yeah,
She's a
yeah, yeah.
she's
That's
a
a false
walking tincture that
positivity.
doesn't work.
Yeah,
Um,
a PE teacher.
she no, I said she's a walking tincture.
Oh, I think
It
she's a
doesn't work.
PE teacher that doesn't work. I was
Also,
like, what is that?
also figuratively.
Yeah,
Um, what the hell was I saying?
you don't want to use the word positivity, but
Yeah, in writing,
yes,
it doesn't. No, I didn't. I wrote some of my best stuff
in the
then.
light.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and that was when like we were emergencies came during a time when I was in the light, and that's I mean that's got its own intense. That's with the line, "I no longer need you to fuck me as hard as I hated myself." That's
Mm.
no line to be messed with.
Can you repeat that real
But
quick?
I no longer need you to fuck me as hard as I hated myself. But
Yeah.
that whole piece I was thrilled about. And it was it's a heavy ass piece. It's got all of the edge I love in my writing,
Mm.
um, but it's all about not being a tragedy addict. So the outcome, despite having to trudge through dark awarenesses or
Mm.
heavy awarenesses,
Mm-hmm.
uh, ends up exactly where I want to be. What I want to give people and where I want to be myself.
What do you think happens when we're living on that plane? So if you could get to a place, and I think we all get there differently. Buddy would argue, but I don't meditate for 12 hours a day, but I do find calm in ice and in fitness and on my motorcycle. Um, I do somatic things; they're just not extreme like that. Uh, but I do have moments where I'm hitting flow states, where I'm super present, where I'm able to see things that I wouldn't normally see because I'm distracted by whether it's chasing shiny things or sex or building an empire or whatever it
Hmm.
is. Trying to trace that poster. Because of that, my lenses I get very narrow, not present. My lenses get very kind of blurry. What do you think happens when you stay on that plane for a long time? Meaning, you said serendipity, but do you think good things happen? Do you think expansion? Like, what do you think happens in that space? What you and Eckhart totally talk about just the here and now.
If I'm hearing you correctly,
If you stay there long enough, not
if I
not for a week.
if I stay there long enough, beyond the 7.5 months, 8 months,
Sure.
I think, yes, I think things continue to get expansive. But I read something specific one time in a book called Teaching the Devas, and it's about Buddha's experiences.
Mm.
And there's something in there, and I don't have it verbatim, and I can't even tell you where it came from or where it was going. I just remember the bullet point thought: beware of tranquil plains.
Mm.
Beware of trying to nest in a tranquil plane,
Mm-hmm.
because even that is impermanent, and your attachment to it will be devastating.
Oh, you mean like comfort, always
Yeah, yeah,
homeostasis, like
right,
calm, like yeah, yeah.
right. So I know that what happened during that celibacy with the frequent specific serendipity as joy was expanding. There was a piece of me that knew I need to keep changing with this, or I'll get stuck in a tranquil plane. I also think that's what happens with people who find that marijuana works for them as a medicine, and then they
Mhm.
overdo it and just become
That becomes the
fucking
norm.
wake and bake every day.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think I feel like it applies there too. So I try to stay, and I'm going to go with Buddha again. He says three things for enlightenment are necessary. One is a constant, thorough understanding of impermanence, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I think is applies to that tranquil plane.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the I should the other two are the other two are awareness. So it's
Nothing's permanent.
equanimity,
Yep.
just not reacting, basically just observing without
Right.
reacting.
Right.
Equanimity, awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and a constant, thorough understanding of impermanence. Those are the
Right.
three requirements
Right.
for enlightenment, and that is its own practice. And that's where
Mm.
our existences, our human selves, our time space limited thoughts are all on this gradient, and like we don't just go from here to enlightened. There actually has to we have to pass through it. Wait, how did I get here?
Well, don't you
We're
think it?
gonna I could go in a
Well,
whole new direction right
don't you
now.
think that enlightenment is any moment or any time that you are fully present? You are enlightened. It's I don't see enlightenment as like this bell that you have to ring at the end of some kind of journey or
Right, fair enough.
pyramid. You know what I'm saying? Like, um,
Yeah,
and I think it's also. It ebbs and flows. It come. I don't know. I don't think enlightenment is a light switch where you're on and then it's on.
I think it's a sustainable awareness though. Like, okay, you know how you were talking about you said I would disagree something about meditation and you find meditative moments.
Yeah, like say
And
like on my motorcycle, 20 minutes a day,
right,
5 days a week,
right.
I hit flow states. I'm very in a meditative state because if I'm not present, I'm going to die, right? So it
Mhm.
forces you to be in that state. Where you would disagree is okay, that's great, that's fine, but that's not like 12 hours of Vipassana
Mm.
where you're going to really go somewhere and come back.
You're not I just
You're
I
flirting.
think what you're
You're
doing,
not
I
like
think what you're doing, what you're talking about is like working out, poetry, riding a bike. What all the flow states are.
yeah, yeah.
I think all of these things are inspirational and point a finger in the right direction, and I think are their own
But
moments with the moments
can it be
and
coins in
line
the bank though? Can that 10 years of that
coins in the
every
bank.
day be just as equal to once a
10
year going and doing
ten
I
thousand
don't know.
hours, man. Yeah, it's total
Yeah,
practice. But
that's always been my path.
I,
It's never been 12 hours. Yeah.
Eckhart also talks about how nobody needs to do that boot camp of meditation.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
needs to do 10
Right,
hours a
right,
day.
right.
And so it's just the way I reset. So I don't think anybody has to do that. I just know that through doing it, I have a technique that allows me to move to a certain place in my capacity for energy
Mhm.
quickly when I'm wow, I almost said the truth. When I'm brave enough to access it.
Mm.
It's a lot of
Mhm.
energy to carry around.
Mhm.
That's a misleading statement also because that sounds heavy. When in actuality, it's pretty light. I'm just good at being heavy.
You're good at being
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I like doing what I'm good at
Yes, and well, I don't know if you're good at being heavy because I think your poetry um after experiencing it makes you lighter. Even though
because
what
it
you
makes
could
me so
top
present.
well because the topics can be heavy.
Yeah.
Um but I think it's light. I think it's light.
But I think people trust that I'm going to land them in a safe place when it's over. Like no matter how heavy it gets, I think people know who know my work. I'm gonna bring it out of the tunnel.
Yeah. What is your newest piece, or what are you working on?
Working on a book called Saint Season is Over.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Why is it called Satan Season is Over?
uh, you know, because I spent the first 20 years of my career. Um, that's a great question that I only know in feeling and in its own meaning when you say it out loud. Saint season is over, and I think that applies both on the micro and the macro level, whether it's me or the whole world. Saint season is over. Nobody's buying it anymore. The real
Mm-hmm.
work needs to be done. I
Mm-hmm.
spent 20 years. I would hear good information. I would put it out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited about the information I was getting and some of the love I was feeling, but I would send it right back out. I wasn't expanding it for myself. And here's I think I know happiness is what I'm aiming at and what I was putting out there for others to aim at, and I think I was saying valid things about it in ways to get, but I was still miserable. And
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, the two closest partners I ever had, they never met each other, but in the end of both of those relationships,
They said you were unhappy.
no, they called me a fraud in their own ways. Basically, one
Mm.
of them called me Buddy Wakefield, and
Oh shit!
one of them just called me a fraud because I'd
Right.
go out with this happy face on stage and I'd
Yeah. Yeah.
make people laugh and I
Right.
make people see the good in life, but
Right.
I wasn't doing it for myself.
Mm.
I was just channeling it through,
Yeah.
and nothing was sticking.
Got it.
And so Saint Season is over just about like despite the fact that I made myself vulnerable for a living, there's something about my vulnerability that didn't stick in terms of what I have to go through for myself,
Mm.
which also led to the addiction situation. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so now it's like there's no there's no candy coating in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's been public shaming, there's been loss of friends, there's been a betrayal of myself to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And so Saint Season is over. Now it's just the real deal, put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we look around us right now, I think Saint Season's over everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's time to
Yeah.
get to the root of the truth everywhere and every matter
People have less tolerance
for bullshit
for bullshit.
and being lied to
Well,
and
also
unfairness.
people can smell bullshit faster now. I think
Yeah.
you know.
High school kids always could. I've performed at a
Oh
few
yeah,
high
yeah,
school.
yeah. Well, I was a school counselor. I
Were
got
you?
hours that way to
Oh
be a
my gosh.
therapist. Yeah, I had a charter school, and they were the hardest clients because you couldn't hide it. They smell bullshit
They're
instantly.
looking for it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the period when they're
yeah,
just weeding out who's real and who's not.
yeah, yeah. Um, you have so many poems, and do you have most of them memorized, or do you have to
I
look
have
it
a
up?
lot of them. I have most of them memorized. The recent stuff I don't so much because I'm working on like four different pieces at once, which is a new approach for
Yeah,
me, and I've enjoyed skipping around. I'm doing one about called More, and it's I was hovering over two donuts at a
sounds
grocery.
like me.
I was hovering over two donuts at a grocery store, and I just in my brain I went like, who better to write a poem about wanting more, just
Ooh,
more and
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah,
and
yeah.
more, and
That's a
so
great one.
so I've got this piece called More I'm working on, and then there's the title piece Saint Season is Over, um, about this person I was just talking about who claims to be positive and who just puts
Hmm.
so much negative
Hmm.
energy into the world. And then there's the newest piece. It was called Lou and the Hooligan Tattoo, and I just rewrote it for your wedding. You've never heard it.
Oh, I'm excited
Yeah.
now. For people who don't know you, can they get a taste of any kind of Buddy Wakefield classics? Do you have something that you feel comfortable with because you've done it so many times? And maybe for your audience, that might sound like syndication, but for my audience, it would be very fresh.
I really didn't plan on this at all, but
I know. I always ask you of this. You should know by now.
uh,
Every time. And also, you could also say, "No, I don't want to."
I'm only excited about the new stuff. The old stuff is just I'm still proud of it. I've just done it so many times my brain doesn't shell out the energy as readily.
Well, picking one out that you have done so many times that literally it's like driving a car where you could think about, the
Let's
groceries.
do that 1 minute when I referenced earlier. Um, it, it uh we can stick anything into the fog and make it look like a ghost. But tonight, let's not become tragedies. We are not funeral homes with propane tanks in our windows looking like cemeteries. Cemeteries. That's just the earth's way of not letting go. Let go.
Mm.
Tonight, let's turn our ridiculous wrists so far backwards that the razor blades and our pencil tips cannot get a good angle on all that beauty inside. Step into this with your airplane parts, move forward, and repeat after me with your heart, not your mouth. I no longer need you to fuck me as hard as I hated myself. Make love to me. Like you know I am better than the worst thing I ever did. Go slow. I'm new to this, but I have seen nearly every city in the world from a rooftop without jumping. I have realized that the moon did not have to be full for us to love it, that we are not tragedy stranded here beneath it, that if my heart really broke, really, every time I fell from love, I'd be able to offer you confetti by now. But hearts don't break, y'all. They bruise and get better. We were never tragedies. We were emergencies. So you go ahead, call 911. Tell them I'm having a fantastic time.
So good. You know what? You were one of the first poets. You, Andrew Gibson, who I didn't know anything about spoken word. I judged it. I thought it was like poetry in coffee shops where people rhyme. And when I heard you, I was like, "Oh, you don't have to rhyme." Not only that,
Thank
but
God.
yeah.
Thank
And
God.
so uh, your poetry, they sound like monologues. You know what I'm saying? They sound like monologues.
Heavily edited
Have,
monologues,
well, that's
densely
the
packed
yeah, yeah.
with substance and intentional. I spent a long time on them just to make sure I get something tailored out
The
there.
wordsmithing has to be, so we're both writers, we're very different
Yeah,
writers,
yeah.
meaning, I'm pumping shit out like a like
You're a swooper. I'm a
I
basher. Kurt Vonnegut talks about
I'm
swoopers
a
and
vending
bashers.
machine.
Yeah,
Yeah, a printing press. But I know, but it's because what's required for, because yours are pieces. I write books, self-help books. For your poetry to land, every fucking line has to hit notes, and
for
the
me it does. Yeah,
wordsmithing, so it's not just being perfectionistic. You're creating something that's kind of like handcrafted more so than me, where I'm writing a self-help book. I'm it's got table of contents and there's things I need to talk about, but sentences don't have to land like yours every single
that's what you
time.
called me out on a couple of years ago. That hit home. It hit home hard.
Mm,
You were like, Bud, do you think that's maybe why you're not writing or not prolific? Because you are a perfectionist. And
yeah.
you pointed out how scared I was of my own editing process because I expect so much every
Well,
time
you
I sit
you told
down.
me it takes like 6 months or 3 months or something which I thought was crazy to write one poem.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, dude, you don't have that much time.
some have. It's been a 20 something year career, and I would say I've got 50, maybe 50 pieces.
Yeah,
Um, I could have been a lot more prolific, but I didn't want 20 albums at the end of my career with like two good songs on each one. I wanted
right.
everything to be
Sure.
its own epic.
Yeah.
I think Andrea's largely the same way. I understand Andrea was going to be on the podcast, but had to cancel because
Yep.
of illness.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
your viewers are gonna love Andrea.
I saw her before I knew who she was. I saw her. I got invited to it. That was my first experience of spoken word before I knew you.
Oh yeah, you told me about
Yeah.
this. You were dating and
Uh,
Robert went with you,
yeah,
Robert Campbell.
yeah. I didn't even know what poetry was,
Yeah,
and I went there and she blew me away. I was like, wow.
fantastic.
Yeah. But anyway, Mr. Buddy Wakefield, and we could follow him. You should follow him on Instagram. Where are you the most active these days? Is it Instagram?
Instagram's typically the most. It's all of it's at Buddy Wakefield, whether
Yeah.
it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not on much except Instagram.
Not Buddy Fakefield.
Not Buddy
No,
Wakefield.
Buddy
No, God, no.
Wakefield.
And buddywakefield.com. I'll be doing a online writing workshop, but they're a lot of fun. It's not. But I won't do anything boring style.
No, you never do.
I have something called Writers Anonymous. It'll
Mhm.
start up in January. I'll start selling tickets online in about 2 weeks after I get back from your wedding.
This man is
Officiating.
officiating.
I'm honored to officiate the wedding of John.
Are you
Kimmy, and Ruthie.
ordained? What's
Yeah.
the? Oh, you are.
The Universal Life Church. You can go online. You can go online right now and
I
get
mean,
it,
I
do it
don't
yourself.
even. I don't. I'm not gonna.
I didn't have to study anything.
It's not a requirement, man. I just wanted you to be the person to say a few words. I mean, who better? What a gift. Well, I enjoy going into the afternoon of our lives. I also appreciate.
I heard you say this earlier. The afternoon of our lives. This is a way to feel good about being 50 now. This is a way to feel good about being old. We're going to the afternoon.
Carl Jung.
Okay.
The afternoon, meaning the 20s, 30s, the morning.
Okay.
Lots of energy, sun.
Got it.
Now we're more. Speaking of calm, more grounded.
Yeah. Theoretically.
I don't know if you sense that in me. I feel more grounded now. Maybe it starts at 51.
I saw you.
I'm more like moon now than sun.
You entered today on pre-workout drink. That wasn't grounded.
No, but I'm overall cumulatively I'm a lot more grounded these days.
I got you. It's true.
I'm still a muzzle greyhound like you. I still have that kind of energy bouncing off the walls, doing way too many things. But I can find my center faster.
Much faster.
And I think it comes with age. And I'm able to see my wrinkles as tree rings. Although I still have insecurities, like we were just talking about, Buddy and I have a little bit of body dysmorphia. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Y'all can't see it.
Anyway, so yeah,
you're not going to let me say it.
No, because it's ridiculous.
John looks incredible.
Well, I haven't
right
seen
now.
you.
John,
No,
I've got titties now. John's still got a 6-pack at 52
I
years old.
have a 3-pack first of all, and it's not about the 3-pack, but I you know what it is having a daughter and knowing, dude, I heard, when you're scrolling, doom scrolling, you just hear sound bites, and on a reel, I heard this person say that if you're 50, and which caught my eye, or caught my ears, you have 26 years to live, and it fucking hit me like a Mack truck, which only a 51-year-old would say because no one knows what a Mack truck is. That's an 80s reference. You know what a Mack truck is.
I had 3 truck drivers in my family.
Okay, so because you're Peterbilt, Mack.
Yeah, one of them drove a Peterbilt.
That's hilarious. 20, and then so I thought, okay, wait a minute. Logan's 4.5, 20. She's gonna be 30. So when I'm about to leave this planet, she's gonna be 30. And I thought to myself, I had my rebirth at 35. I was a fucking idiot.
You're so look, your mom's still alive, and you're 50 something.
I know, but it just made me think about how fast life is, and the short amount of time we have on this planet.
Does it bum you out, or are you excited about it? I hear
both,
26. I hear 26 years. I'm like, God, 26 more. Can we stop around 60?
Dude, 20.
But I don't have a child either.
Yeah, I'm. It's a double-edged sword. I feel. Look, culturally also, I'm big with, as a Korean American who grew up in the 80s with a bowl haircut and a strawberry shortcake t-shirt and not fitting in.
Badass.
No, not badass. I mean, now badass,
Sure.
but not in the 80s.
Strawberry shortcake t-shirt that's like a boy named Sue.
Exactly. So, and I wasn't, look, I wasn't bullied. I was able to fit in with the cool kids because I was able to spin on my head or do some kind of something activity. And, that person now looking at media and what's happening, and I know that we have a long ways to go, but dude, I mean, I'm amazed at, like, I mean, Asians are on TV,
Mm.
you know, some of them are like lead characters. This idea of also like the Asian guy being the long duk dong, like
So fucked up.
no, but you know what I'm talking about, the 80s, like
Yeah, I
the
bought into the whole
nerd,
thing.
the giant Chinese delivery take, like that's what I grew up with,
Yeah,
and so I wish I was 30 now so I could experience where the world is headed now with
and the
Asians in
confidence
media.
in the evolving confidence and consciousness in uh, it has evolved quite a bit.
Yeah,
Right now,
yeah,
as you're saying that, though, I'm thinking about I'm changing. I know we're going to wrap up here in a
that's
second,
okay.
but it's worth mentioning uh, uh, the one-dimensional view that Americans have of Arabs and Muslims,
Mm,
and
mm.
what's happening right now is just as is even more terrifying to me than what was happening back then. There was at least some sense of humor about the stereotypes back then, but what's happening now with Arabs and Muslims is atrocious to me, and it's just as ignorant and almost intentionally so.
I mean,
Are you paying attention to what's happening regarding Palestine and
I'm s- I'm watching it all. I'm noticing. I'm checking in with myself. Um, with everything that's happening in the world. So whether it's with war, with
yeah?
politics, I also, so it's like I have awareness and a sense of responsibility collectively for what's happening in the world,
Hmm.
and where I fit in that, what I can say. Uh, and then I also have this at the same time, this other spinning plate, which is like, I got to get mustard. I got to make sure Logan's in school.
Right,
I got to, you know what I'm talking
right,
about? So
right.
I don't know. It's a lot. I know there's a
It's
lot
hard
of
to know how
rocks.
much it's hard to know how much your capacity is to carry
Yeah.
when an overwhelming situation like
Yeah.
this rears up.
Well, also, just I think there's a lot of rocks being turned over in the world right
Yeah,
now. I think the pendulum is swinging wildly, and I think there's a lot of activation because of this, of course. Um, and I'm, but I also feel like a lot of what's happening is kind of needed for this is collectively. I'm not talking
for the tide
specifically.
to turn.
Yeah, for the tide to turn,
You know
for
when
people to look inward, for yeah. I mean, everything from, like, what's happening with P Diddy
yeah,
to just all every like just things are that you can't hide anymore.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, when in 2016 when Trump was elected, there was a big element of like what you just said that was going on for me. Like, if this is what the collective conscious needs to take it to the next level, then bring it on. Let's just do it. Let's go through this. Now it's become so serious and so genocidal that it's been hard for me to say bring it on. I just it's more like stop, you guys, stop.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
doing? It's just so far,
Yeah.
and now people are toying with the truth. I'll say one last
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
you got to wrap it up
Yeah.
here soon. But a friend of mine, Sarah Healy, who I talk about a lot in my book, she um she does this thing once a year in her neighborhood in Petaluma, and has speakers out. It's like a neighborhood TED thing, and she had this friend of hers who was a crack addict, and he was talking about relapsing, and his wife called him out on it, and he was saying, no, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, and and he said from him spending so much time convincing her that he wasn't high again, he realized that the gravest sin you can commit is to make someone you love believe that their intuition is false. And what's happening right now on a mass scale
Mm,
from governments, namely white ones, are trying to make us believe that our intuition is false,
mm.
and it's causing people self doubt and
Yeah.
I just
That's
think I
really
just want to
interesting.
say that point. I don't know where I'm
Yeah.
going with it, but just if it provides a witness for somebody, then hallelujah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. One of the things that I hope for us, you and I, uh, is that we become porch swing friends. I call it porch swing friends,
Yeah,
meaning um,
it's kind of a given at this point.
just always touching base and always
Yeah,
no, and then if we don't talk for a few years, we just catch up where we
It's easy.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the Bartles and James commercial in the 80s.
Talk about old
the, two,
references,
the
dude.
two old
Do
dudes
they
on the
sell
porch.
those still?
I don't know, but that's the porch swing image I have. Just
Oh,
friends, and
Cisco.
they're old, and also you are closest to my me age wise than anyone else. Looking back at life, 20 years from now, thinking, fuck, remember when we used to just ramble in your garage or work out together or
Yeah,
whatever, or do the Nines dinner. Buddy and I had a dinner called the Nines.
that was the best. That's been the highlight for me so far. When our own kismet was, you
Mm.
know, you were the first person. Well, technically, Alan was the first person I met, and Alan immediately within the first 5 minutes introduced me to you.
All right.
But you were the first friend I had here in LA.
Wow.
The night I moved
Wow.
here, Hollywood and Edgemont, I dropped my bags off in my apartment and immediately walked to the CrossFit gym that you had just opened,
Yeah.
called CrossFit Mindset in
Mindset.
Los Feliz.
Yeah.
Introduced myself to
I
who
think I
who
remember
was the
this.
co-owner,
Yeah.
Alan.
Yeah.
And Alan, I said something about meditation somehow
Yeah.
quickly,
And then
and Alan
you pointed to
immediately
me,
pointed
of course.
to you. And of course, I had joined. Of course, serendipity led me to the one CrossFit in the world that had a weekly therapy group, thus
with,
Mindset.
with the shady
Yeah.
therapist who
Yeah.
didn't show up much. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Anyway,
you did. You showed up for us.
I did.
It
I
was me,
did. But
you, CJ, who's still a good friend.
yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah, there was like 7 of us who showed up every week.
Yeah.
Jeff was there.
Jeff was there.
Jeff will be at his wedding too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been on many times, and I hope you continue to come on. And thanks for sharing that poem. I know a lot of times I put you on the spot, but
Ask a comedian to tell you a joke.
I know I get that. I get that part, but also I feel like no, fucking do it because it's so good. People need to hear the thing.
Go
If it wasn't good, I wouldn't put you on the
Thank you.
spot. Anyway, thank you for listening. Be well.
Good one. That was right on. 45? 42.